5:06. We'll open the meeting. And glad everybody could make it, no Beth, but we should be able to go through this. So Pat, what do you, should we put Main Street Live last and just get through the other things?
Yeah, why don't?
Yeah, it'd
I'm
probably
all
be
right
the
with that.
longer discussion.
Okay.
Most everything else is really just kind of an update of where we're at with a few different grants and then just ongoing development and 40Bs.
Okay.
So, whatever you want, I guess I'll just briefly go over the one grant that we got about a few months ago that we're just starting to work through is a comprehensive zoning review and revision project. We had a steering committee that was formalized, I think last week actually. 2 members of planning board, two ex officio members, myself and the building commissioner, and then 3 at-large members. So it's related to the Economic Development Committee in the sense that, you know, our zoning bylaws are you know, really that main catalyst to seeing some growth, making development both easier, functional, having zoning that's clear, consistent. So ultimately that kind of can go back to just really having the process for potential developers be a lot more, I wouldn't say streamlined, but at least more fair and easy to follow, and hopefully makes that process a lot smoother going forward. So this project really kind of goes on a legal approach. We're working with town council that's they're finalized a zoning audit and a diagnostic where it's basically a complete breakdown of, you know, where there's inconsistencies, recommendations for changing, location, whether or not case law has changed in the decades since our zoning bylaw has existed. So a lot of that really will bring us into compliance. And so, like I mentioned, the steering committee just got assembled. We're looking to have our first meeting probably in mid-August and begin the process of going through that diagnostic and working on draft zoning amendments. Probably looking at kind of like a phased approach where we're just trying to clean up before bringing in more kind of comprehensive changes. So it's something I've been told pretty much since I got here that the town definitely was in need of in terms of taking a closer look at. So I'm happy to get that progress or get that project kind of going. Running alongside that though, and definitely something that is going to be in the EDC's wheelhouse, is a commercial industrial zoning study. So Lauren did a great job a couple months ago. She was able to apply for a technical assistance grant through MAPC. It's the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. If you're familiar, you know, Massachusetts broken up in different regional agencies. We fall under MAPC's jurisdiction. They run a technical assistance grant program every spring. We're able to receive funding through that program as well as work with MAPC directly for their technical assistance. Going alongside that though, we applied recently to the EEA, which is another state agency, to receive, I guess, get supplemental funding, essentially. The project itself was funded up to a certain amount. We wanted to make sure we can extend that further, and that additional funding, you know, we just applied July 1st. They closed the application window only yesterday, so might be a few weeks to a month till we find out whether or not we get that supplemental funding. I'm slightly optimistic only because we're working with MAPC already, and so having them sign on as a partner to the grant definitely carries weight for the town's application. But overall, as we've discussed in previous meetings, this is going to be more of a very comprehensive, detailed review of our commercial, our industrial zoning, its locations within the town, its how it functions, how it competes with our regional neighbors, how it functions in just today's society. A lot of our zoning, at least when I'm talking from like a zoning map side, that, like most towns in Massachusetts, it stems from wherever everything was, and then eventually as towns modernized, it's something that may have been utilized for industrial purposes, maybe doesn't fit that location anymore, and there might be a more suitable location for that, just to kind of give, repurpose. So that project works with our zoning study. Oops, sorry, Dan.
If I may, will that study go into the zoning bylaws and stuff like that?
Yeah, so the goal of this is to walk away with recommendations that are more policy changing
For
for
the
our
zoning rewrite?
Yeah.
So that kind of has to maybe take place before the zoning bylaw rewrite.
Well, the zoning rewrite is primarily looking at, think of it as, you write a document, you're gonna bring it to an editor, and they're going to completely redline it and describe on what you need to change to make that, that document efficient. And so that zoning rewrite is more comprehensive from a technical standpoint. How you read our zoning, how you find certain areas of our zoning. So as a property owner, or, whether you are looking to do addition to your home, or you're looking to build a new factory, it's a lot more clear. It's clear in terms of where you need to look, how you get that information. There's no situations that hopefully where you follow something one way, but you missed a different section because it wasn't directly tied. So
Will it also go through and tell us whether some of the zones that we have currently should maybe be changed to a different zone, that type of thing?
So that is more in line with the commercial and industrial zoning study.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yep.
Will they recommend that instead of having industrial, it should be more highway business as opposed to industrial
Yeah.
use and that type of thing?
Exactly, so I wanted that to be more comprehensive and probably more, it's a more of a policy change as well, whereas the other one is, think of it as like an editorial change, or you're looking to,
Right,
Clear
on
it
the as-is properties
Yeah.
as they are today, right? So to make sure they're all clear,
yep,
right, as they stand or whatever nuances may be. And then the study's gonna come up with the recommendations and/or review of where everything is and quote-unquote, if it makes sense. Is that correct?
yeah, I mean, that's the
Would they
goal.
make recommendations for rezoning?
Yeah,
Like if there's a general residence zone up on the highway, will they make a recommendation that it should be something different? Or
yeah, I
rural-
mean,
A rural zone or something like that should be more commercial, or?
yeah, so housing kind of plays into this in a little bit, because, I mean, we're thinking of any other town, you have your commercial districts, you have your, industrial districts, you have your residential districts. So what may be residential that should be better utilized for highway business, that could be a recommendation. Not all recommendations need to be followed, but I think we want to have an outside third party kind of take a non-biased look at it and kind of offer their professional guidance and feedback on what they would recommend. It's like anything else. It's up to us whether or not we want to follow it or we agree with it, but
So what I'm hearing is, for the bylaw review, you're basically vetting the current bylaw to get rid of discrepancies, opposing, I know there's
yeah,
a lot of opposing things in the bylaws where one chapter says you can do something and the very next one says you cannot, or the numbers are different or whatever. So is that what I'm seeing?
Absolutely.
They're just going through to make sure everything is lined up and there's no opposing bylaws for the same issue. Depending on where it was written and when it was written, they might not have gone back and looked. I know we ran into that a lot when I was on planning board, where one part of the bylaw said, a 50-foot setback, and one said, you can't build there, you know what I mean? So, and I'm obviously being facetious, but, so is that what they're doing? They're going through just to get rid of all of that finally?
that is basically the crux of what
Right.
the zoning audit and revision will be.
So they're not
It's-
they're not gonna make any recommendations for any changes or additions, they're just gonna clean that document up, so then we can move forward
And be able to make
and be
more
able
policy
to make
changes.
more decisions and
That is really kind of, that's the big problem, right? When you go over time and you start adding things, maybe you don't remove things, or maybe you remove a section somewhere, but you left it in another location. It just becomes kind of haphazard, and you have take that opportunity to just, bring in a legal consultant, take a non-biased look at it, provide all those recommendations, clean it up, and then.
down to square one where you know you got
Yeah.
a clean document and then move from there.
Yeah, because there's always been a lot of good policy ideas that have come up, but at least from the standpoint, since I've seen it, it's, well, we need to clear up the zoning first before we start throwing in more stuff that's just piling on.
Who's on that steering committee from planning board, do you know?
Phil Chekarowski and John O'Leary.
Okay.
And what were the other departments that were on that?
So it's myself and the building commissioner, who is also the zoning enforcement officer. And then we have 3 at-large members, who are Ed Forsberg, Sarah Katib, and Tyler Church. Both Ed and Tyler were involved with the MBTA steering committee in the winter, so they were interested in
Sarah's
us.
got planning board.
Is there
experience.
gonna
As
be,
does Ed.
is there gonna be access to professional
Oh.
zoning rewriters, or is it just in-house?
Well, we're working with, so we chose town council as our legal consultant only because, well, Copeland and Page is one of the larger,
Yeah.
municipal councils in the state, and their familiarity with our zoning already helps a lot. So they are our consultant essentially, so they're working with, they actually have already done the zoning diagnostics. We're just looking to get the process started, meeting with the group and start reviewing what they've found.
So is the people that are on that board gonna make the recommendations to town council, and town council's gonna come back with the final
Yeah, I mean,
to it? Is that how it's gonna work?
ultimately, yeah, the board's gonna look at that zoning diagnostic, whether they agree or not, whether they have questions that need further clarity, they can pose that, bring that to town council, and get into a place where, once in agreement, we can start working on almost like that red line
They're
version.
not gonna propose new amendments at that time, right?
Only if it really corresponds with a needed change from like a clarity
Yeah.
standpoint. We're not gonna be looking to do policy things.
No
right
new
away.
policy, they're just gonna do things that are needed to facilitate the change needed to make the document more clear.
Yeah, I mean, that's the primary goal.
Will the same process be followed for the commercial and industrial zoning study? Like you'll create a steering committee and?
So, that's what I'm gonna have you guys be. You are the committee that I want to work. I thought it fell into EDC's wheelhouse and it'd be a good opportunity to kind of work on a project like that directly. Obviously, a lot of help, what was it?
There's something that matters.
Well, a lot of it is gonna depend on MAPC's assistance. I've worked with them on a bunch of things. I mean, they're great, they're very helpful. This is what they do in terms of facilitating, public outreach as well. That's a big component of doing anything like this. You wanna be able to kind of bring this to the public, have an opportunity to take questions, comments, concerns. But yeah, the EDC is ultimately is the group that I want to lead that.
So through the grant, they'll go do the study, then they'll bring the study back to us, we'll review the study, put in.
Oh, we're
comment
gonna
input.
probably work at the same time. I think it's gonna, I haven't followed up with our actual consultant, just because we've been waiting to find out the results of the EEA application, the supplemental funding. But, yeah, we'll have an introductory meeting. We'll have kind of a breakdown of what the timeline is, goals, and kind of take it from there.
What's the time frame you're thinking on this?
Roughly,
Fall into
Year.
spring?
yeah,
Or
I mean.
Fall into fall?
At this point, probably fall into fall for the TAP grant. The other project is also, it has a deadline, the zoning revision. That one, I ideally and primarily am focusing on getting for the spring of
Springtime, yeah.
'25. Yeah. This one, if it needs to go into the fall, that's fine, because I think MAPC is a little more flexible. So,
Exciting.
yeah, I mean, that will keep you updated. Like I said, I still need to find out if we get that supplemental funding. Slightly optimistic, but I'll update you as soon as I have more information from MAPC. Because I do want to get that introductory meeting. I feel like we got that grant awarded a while ago, and I don't know if they're on vacation or what's going on, but I got that.
Okay,
Oh, good.
Yep.
very good.
Yep.
Good job, Lauren.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In terms of department updates, just kind of briefly, I know this has been topic that we've brought up in the past with the EDC, just to kind of familiarize what's kind of going on from the development side. 40B status, as many of you may have known, there was what's called a LIP project, or a friendly 40B at the Gilmore site at 1015 East Street. That project received its comprehensive permit, so it received its approval through the zoning board back in April. I believe they're still meeting with our Conservation Commission. But essentially, that project, in ideal world, will put us over that 10% threshold. We're kind of waiting on the 55 Summer Street project. That's something that it's been an ongoing thing with the developer in terms of just getting everything finalized before releasing building permits. Once that happens, those units go back on the inventory. But ultimately, we're getting to a place where I think we're starting to close out some of those cases. I know a lot of them predate me even, so it's just plugging away, and I think, you know, it's tough decisions that the ZBA has to make, but I think it's, they've done the best they can for definitely what's, you know, a heavy task. In terms of other ongoing development,
Excuse me, on
Yeah.
that, the former Gilmore's, they're
Yeah.
approved for what, 145?
142,
Is that outside the CBD district, or is that?
it's actually in the CBD.
Why wasn't there a commercial requirement for that?
So, well, under a 40B, they don't necessarily need to. The reason they didn't go in that direction was just because I didn't think they believed it was really not a market for it. There is a component of the project that's supposed to be publicly accessible in terms of rentable space, a, you know, a kind of a usable office space, small office space.
Yeah.
There's a big emphasis on like hardscape improvements and trying to have the project be more interactive with the town. I know the two larger projects there in the downtown, while they're mixed use, and that mixed use space has not, or not, sorry, that mixed use space, that commercial space is not filled out. So going forward to this project, rather than having the potential of just a more empty space, we want to have some sort of public interaction that was definite. And that was gonna be,
So 40B does not come under any of their
Requirements of the
for
town.
the commercial?
no, there's no requirements for commercial under 40B. It's really at, you know, the developer's call, if it's a situation like if it's in a downtown like this. If you do, I mean, my only familiarity was with this is another kind of version of affordable, subsidized housing called, you know, Chapter 40R.
That's what I thought that project was, the
Yeah.
1015, because it's not all affordable, is it?
No, none of the 40B projects are all affordable, it's only 25%, the rest are all market rate. But a 40R project it's a smart growth overlay district, and some towns will work with the developer, they have to pass zoning first, and then the project just falls under site plan review of the planning board. And so it's a way for towns to kind of, it's a different variation of a friendly 40B, and there used to be, I think there used to be a financial component of it where a town got some funding for the amount of units that were put in there. I'm not sure if that's still the case anymore. I know they did that for a few years, but those projects I've seen sometimes will, because there are in locations that are more commercial, or at least accessible by public transit. Sometimes I've seen commercial or mixed-use component in a 40R project, but 40Bs in general, they, you know, no matter where they are, they don't need to include commercial if that's not something they wanna do.
If that site falls under the, like, within the MBTA overlay, I assume it does,
Mhm.
because it's right there, but, so, they wouldn't have to be a 40B to probably build what they're proposing there, right?
So, yeah, I mean, if they didn't wanna go, so the process with the developer with the project at Gilmore's, this goes back over 2 years. So, I mean, it took a while between them working with the select board, getting to a point before they were able to apply to the zoning board. So if they, you know, that didn't exist and they wanted to just build a project that was all residential and they wanted to file it under the MBTA zoning, they could. I think by our MBTA zoning, I don't think they would have been able to get the amount of units they got, just because it's more regulated under MBTA for dwelling units per acre. That number of 142, I mean, that was more or less, you know, you're working in terms of what's feasible, really. You know, whether or not, you know, it works for the site, does it help the town out with its 10%? There are a lot of reasons, obviously, the developer, why they chose that number.
Yeah.
Is that permitted yet?
No, so they're still meeting with the Conservation Commission, last I checked, so they have to, once
They
they
have
go.
plans in place though and everything that been through?
So they have approved plans that were, you know, approved through the comprehensive permit process, which is almost like that zoning board approval.
Yeah.
But once they receive the approval from the Conservation Commission, they'll need to kind of finalize that approval with, it's the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, it used to be DHCD. So because they are the subsidizing agency, the agency that kind of gave them the ability to conduct that project, they approved the project. After that, they have to take a look, make sure everything checks off, and then before they go through the process of getting building permits, they have to follow everything within their comprehensive permit in terms of pre-construction activities. So they'll make the town, they'll make corrections to the plan based upon conditions of approval. It's usually kind of it's a detailed process, there's kind of like a stepped process in terms of before you do site work, before you get a building permit, before you get your certificate of occupancy, before you finalize and get your last certificate of occupancy. It's a step process of things they need to provide the town as well as the state. So, long story short, they don't have it yet.
This project, and I haven't really been paying attention to it other than knowing that it's going on, but they ended up not taking those two multifamilies between.
They did,
Oh, they
actually,
It went
yes,
with
it-
it. It went with it.
those are part of the project, I think,
So those are coming down as well,
Yeah.
eventually?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, good.
Has anyone from the town approached the Jana Medical property over there in terms of their zonings and stuff like that? Eastern Pool, the
yeah,
two families, the stuff up on Maple, on School Street to Maple, and on Main Street that's been amassed together into a big parcel.
yep, so that whole area was included in the MBTA zoning overlay as well, so it does expand the use potential for that site.
Is that expand use in terms of commercial or residential?
So MBTA is all residential, so in terms of commercial, they're still able to do mixed use.
Yeah.
But a pure commercial building would just be within the confines of what's zoned CBD.
Right.
So it really expands mixed use as
What's that parcel, CBD and general residence?
general residence,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the existing underlying zoning, that, I guess if you think of that area,
Splits down it.
yeah, it's like a block basically between Maple Street, School Street. That whole block is kind of
That's a
splits up.
character changer for downtown.
I was gonna say, is that parcel in play right now? Is someone
Hmm.
looking at that?
It's out there.
I believe they're looking to sell it, but in terms of anything that's come to us, no,
Nothing solid yet?
no.
No.
That'll
It's-
change
it
everything.
involves well, it's a huge frontage there, and then up onto School, and then to Maple, and
Right.
plus the two funeral home
was gonna say the
properties and
funeral
stuff.
home,
Yeah,
yeah.
all goes into one piece of parcel.
Oh, so the funeral home that's empty is included in that parcel?
As well as the two-family next to the funeral home. And then it comes all the way down and includes, not breadwinners, but the interior designer building, Eastern Pool building, the two-family behind it, the two families to the right of it, and then two families on School Street.
So if you do look at the block from an
Game changer.
aerial, the underlying zoning already allows for that residential use. It's almost like split diagonally, if you're going from the corner of Maple and Main down to School and east, no, west.
I mean, that could go really good or really bad, depending on what,
It's a character
Someone does.
changer for
Or if it
downtown.
goes
yeah,
all
it'll
together
change the
too.
whole center.
Right.
yeah.
If it
I
goes
mean,
all together.
The development potential's already been there, and, it really remains to be seen what exactly it can be done, because the actual, even though it's within the overlay itself is also split. We had two sub-districts. We had a higher density, which is our central core sub-district, and then a lower density, which is the outer core sub-district. That outer core district, which follows the same lines as the GR, it's, a higher density, it's a higher yield in terms of density, but it's substantially less than what's in the central core sub-district. So interestingly enough, the overlay follows the same guidelines as the underlying zoning.
Danielle, how many residential units is in your new building?
I have 9.
9 in the new one?
Mhm.
And then 142 is coming,
I think it was 145 back at
104
Gilmore's.
Whoa, for Gilmore's?
Gilmore's?
142.
142? Wow, it's gonna put 500 residential units
In the last 3-4 years.
in the last 4 years.
But I do gotta say, from what I've seen of those 2 projects that are up, I haven't noticed a huge difference. Have you?
No,
In terms of like traffic and parking and all
No.
that? And-
I don't
and
think.
I
don't
know a
think
lot
it's
of that
problem.
changed with COVID to begin with, so it's tough to definitely pinpoint to it any which way.
I think it'll be fine. I think, I'm more and I was gonna use the word worry, but it's not a worry, it's a good problem to have. I'm thinking more of downtown services, I think are gonna be lacking if you bring in another 200 units. You know, now you're getting into an area where you do want more services downtown, like walkable coffee shops and things like that.
Well, hopefully that will fill those vacancies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, build it and they will come, so.
That's ultimately the thought behind it. And I think-
Well, that was the thought behind it, but again, like you said, you know, Union West has an open commercial space, and the other one has an open commercial space. Between you and I and the Walpole TV world, I'm not sure, like, folks like Union West are dying to fill that spot, to be honest with you.
I agree.
They've had opportunities, and I just think they're like,
Mhm.
It's storage, that's where we keep our snow blowers, you know, what do they care? But it would be nice, and I think the more units we bring in, I mean, again, you're gonna get people that are gonna, oh, it's not the Walpole that it was 40 years ago, and you're right, it's not. And Walpole 40 years ago was awesome, and it was awesome 30 years ago, and it was awesome last year, and no matter what they do, it's still gonna be great. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with.
Yeah, I mean, you know, not to, so the MBTA zoning obviously is one thing, and that's a newer kind of entity that was, you know, the hot topic. You know, but our underlying zoning within the central business district, it's been around for decades and has allowed this use. So, I mean, I mentioned the Gilmore's property, that's within the CBD, that, you know, obviously, if it was going to be utilized in the CBD, it would have to be a mixed-use building, not a pure residential building, but all this development is kind of following zoning that really hasn't changed in decades. It's just, it's hot right now because it's impacted by the market. I mean, that's what we've known for years, the demand for housing is so much that, you know,
We're behind.
yeah,
Yeah,
More or less.
all right,
Yeah.
that's good.
but that's all I got right now. If we wanna go into.
You know, I got a
Mr.
question for you, though,
Yeah.
and they're not even really related, but
Yeah,
I don't wanna forget, and I forgot my pen, so if I don't say it now, I'm gonna.
do you want a pen?
Go hell, man, I'm dragging right now, but, general questions.
Yes.
First question I had was, I know we have a couple of hotels that are being used as, shelters right now, right, up on Route 1. Oh, is that Sharon?
That was Sharon. So
So
last,
Walpole doesn't have any?
that I'm aware of, we don't have any.
All right. Because I was curious, because I heard somebody talking, I forget what town it was. It may have been Franklin, because I know they have 3 or 4, where they were worried that they're not getting their hotel revenue.
Yeah.
Right, there's no tax, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, technically, the state is paying the hotels, so
Right.
but they're saying that because it's not like retail, if you will, that
Yeah.
now that tax revenue is not going to the town. I just wanna know if you've heard anything like that.
I haven't. I know in terms of towns that have taken that on, you know, I believe it's more dependent on the hotel owner, really.
Well, the
It's
hotel
not a
owner
matter.
can agree or not.
Yeah, it's.
And they
it's-
still get paid,
Exactly.
but I'm wondering what this person thought in Franklin was that because of the relationship of that transaction, that it was not, they don't get their revenue from that hotel.
The town doesn't.
The town doesn't, and
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. That's, I
That,
was just curious.
I can look it up, honestly. I'm
It's
not,
not a big deal, I was just
And
curious.
I thought I've read the same.
Yeah.
It's an
that
interesting
you have
point.
said and from other towns, like from Plymouth and something, that was a concern.
Yeah,
But since we don't have any.
it doesn't matter to us, I
Yeah.
guess that one is in Sharon, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, the town's changed 18 times in a quarter mile there, so you never know where you are, but, all right, well, that's good. And also, any updates, rumors, anything like that on the prison?
No, it's really the same state in terms of, you know, we're doing everything, I know, in terms of trying to get information, trying to be part of whatever outcome happens there. It's really kind of in the state's wheelhouse, you know, but in terms of just being in touch with communication, I'm not directly, but I know
Sure.
the town administration is. I mean, that's something that's, unfortunately, we don't have a clear
So
answer.
we're,
Will that be
we're at the
taken?
mercy of the state on
I
that?
think it's state-owned, right?
Well, it is
Well,
state-owned, yeah.
State-owned, but it's still in Walpole, and they're not using it for their stated purpose anymore.
Yeah, in terms of specifics, whether there's like a right of first refusal or anything like that, I'm not really aware of that, but ultimately, I mean, the state hopefully communicates with the town, and we've been in communication from what I've been aware, in terms of just, hey, what's going on, nothing yet.
It's just too bad to be at the mercy of someone else, especially because 20 years from now, it'll still look like that, still be there.
Or they'll do like an RFP and have somebody just come in and build whatever.
Yeah.
But that would have to go through like the regular zoning process.
I
Like
don't
they did
know.
it like the Medfield State Hospital and stuff, right? Like,
So it's
Does
zoned,
the state own the Medfield Hospital site?
yeah, I
if
think
so,
so.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
They did like they did an RFP and like probably like a design charrette as part of that. But I don't know who, I mean, they get to choose ultimately.
That was, yeah,
I don't
my,
know how much input the town gets.
they had some pretty
They
good
had some
input, I
input
think
in
they
it,
had a
yeah.
lot of,
Yeah, I would think.
the town benefits, I think, from affordable units as well, I think their percentage, I don't know if it goes to 10, but it is a big benefit for the town in terms of both
Yeah.
tax revenue and then providing affordable housing,
They probably had to,
Um,
yeah, upgrade utilities and all that.
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a shame if it just sits there and
I hope it doesn't.
rots
sit there.
away, because, you know, from an economic development standpoint, it could be something.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah, I mean, right now it's zoned rural, but, you know,
I had to guess.
should be a new high school, but now they're dumping money into the old high school again, so I think that's moved, but anyway. We won't go down that rabbit hole.
but, no,
Cool.
All right.
yeah, any other questions? Anyone
No.
see anything they wanna know about? No.
Well, a couple of things if I could on some other things.
Yeah.
The board members here, we
Or
don't have a
lack
full
thereof.
complement, yeah, lack thereof.
Yeah.
I assume that those are being advertised and everything?
The way they are for all of them, I know we talked about, we should probably
Yeah.
go revisit,
And,
maybe putting them in the paper or not as well.
yeah, and Harry, your relationship through the
Chamber.
Chamber of Commerce, is there any reason why that was never never came on the board as a permanent member, or wanted to come on the board as a permanent member, or did we always just keep it that way?
I think it was just a matter of when I became president, 10 years ago or so now, I was going through the bylaws and I noticed that the chamber president has a seat on the EDC, a non-voting seat. And then I had asked, because Beth was already on the EDC at that time, and she said, no, I'm a full member. I said, oh, well, I should sit there then. So that's what I did.
Are you suggesting that maybe we try to make it so Harry's position and anyone subsequent that might take that position in the future, assuming you're not gonna be there for 80 years, but that they become an active member?
I don't know, just throwing it out for conversation, or whether Harry wanted to come on as a member. I don't think there's any rules and regulations that would prohibit
Against
him
that,
from
yeah.
coming on as a member. You know, he attends the meetings, and just throwing it out there for discussion.
Yeah. What do you
No,
think
it's,
about
and
that?
it's a lot of times you guys are close to the quorum and it's me that could make the difference, you know?
So it's
Well,
just,
not just that, I mean, over the years, your input's been great and invaluable and insightful, and you know a lot about the town, and so, I mean, if it was another person that was the president or the chair of the Chamber of Commerce, you know, whatever, whoever that person is, it doesn't really matter, but in terms of the value that you might add, I would consider that if I were you, because I think you offer a lot to the committee.
Well, yeah, maybe if you change the wording a little bit and just say a representative of the Walpole Chamber / Board of Directors has that open seat, non-voting seat to be there and voice their opinion. I could then potentially move into that.
Into
actual
an
member.
an actual member.
Yeah.
just, how many does our charter read now?
So
7 members?
7 members,
And then 3 associates?
got rid of the
I think we got rid of the
associates.
associates.
So,
Two associates are done,
Yeah.
really?
I think it was, you know, it was like 13 members and 5 associates or something nuts like that. I mean, that's a lot for any
When
committee.
you got here?
When I got here, and I know we changed it down to 7, removed the associates. We actually changed something from when Brianna got in, because at that time we had, both John and Brian were still on the board, and so there was a, I think, one of the members had to be a FinCom representative, which I don't know if that ever got followed, so that was language we got changed just to
Just
be
be
a
members.
rate. Yeah, so
how
if there's
does it
some,
read now?
don't know
We just
verbatim, but
rewrote
it's
that.
7 members
I thought
essentially.
it says
Did you
7
just-
members.
Just 7 members?
Didn't you just get that redone with the select board like 6 months ago or something like that?
Yeah, when Brianna got
Yeah,
him.
okay.
Yeah,
We
that
could
was to
revisit
make sure
again,
we
especially
had a
if,
quorum
So we
and
currently
stuff.
have 5.
currently have 5 and 2 more.
Two
And
open seats.
if Harry wants to be a member, we should definitely.
If you wanna do it, think about it and we'll put it up, cause it
You
doesn't
thought
make
about it
sense.
enough?
No pressure.
You can send a writing an email, you can send a response in an email.
Again, I come anyway, so it's no difference to me.
Yeah.
But again, just you have to reword the chamber position.
Yeah, I could talk to downstairs. I mean, that, if you're willing to do it, that makes the job easier than
I have
we're
no
just looking for one
objection to
more member.
I have no objection, the select board might have it now.
We'll see. And one other issue,
Yep.
the Route 1A project,
Yes.
why is it stalled? Why isn't it done?
That I really can't answer. So that's really just been our DPW. That's been kind of liaison between them. I'm not involved with that
Can
at
you
all.
find out what's going on there? It's not
Yeah.
fair for the business owners there to be sitting through all that crap longer than they need to.
Is it just the final, they're working on the railroad bridge and then that's it, then they lay down the final?
Well, they ain't working too fast on the railroad.
Right,
Yeah, you're right.
they've yanked up out of here
There's no
for a
reason why
while.
they shouldn't get at least the rest of it done.
Yeah, they
You
got
know.
like the level coat on now, all they gotta do is put on the asphalt, right? That's it?
As far as I know down at the Pemberton, Street, there's still some lights that gotta go up and a cage that's gotta go in and over that, but I think everything else is done more or less. I don't know, that's why I'm asking,
Yeah.
why isn't it? Because it looks like a lot of the roadway, 90% of it
Yeah.
can be done.
And then they're gonna get into,
I'll ask and find
Winter,
out.
they're
Yeah.
not gonna be able to do it.
Fall, yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll have to find that answer out for you then.
I mean, they should have been
Pulled
back
outta
there in
here
late
a while.
February, early March, knocking it out now. It should have been done by now.
If it's only final pave, wouldn't they just wanna wait till the fall, or is there, you're saying there's more than that?
There is more than that, but that's only up if they are working on the train
it
bridge, which
seems like they're
Which
working on
why
the
it
train
didn't
bridge.
take place in the last 2 years, I don't know, you know? And then, beyond that, the only thing that I really notice is the Pemberton Street
Are they
streetlights.
putting a traffic light there?
Yes, they have one set up, the other set over by Country Kitchens hasn't been completed yet.
Oh, I was trying to think of where this was.
And it was supposed to be, I don't know, they got the cage there for the footing for the streetlight and everything, but it just, no
It
one's been
seems
back
like
there.
they flipped a switch off and nothing's been done
There
since.
hasn't been anyone
Yeah.
working on that roadway since they
It's been
left
months.
last November or December.
Right. I don't remember
It's not-
anything
It's just not fair to the
post-winter.
business owners down there to still be put through that for no reason. At least clean it up and get out of it,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, no.
Can we inquire with DPW what's going on with that?
Yeah. Well, wrote it down. We'll have that.
Right on that?
If anything, I can try to email that out to you as well before their next meeting, just to kind of give you a status update.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right. Anybody have anything else? Harry, you ready to get sworn in? No? Okay.
I got a friend that was interested too. I'll reach out to him.
All right. Excellent.
Didn't I hear something about Dover Amendment out in Fisher Street? Church or something?
Another one?
So I know that was before the planning, but was it last week, Lauren?
What was it?
Yeah, so
What's going on?
it's,
This is great. You
Actually,
just
but-
brought that up. Your face, Patrick, was like, I thought I was out of it. I thought I was out of it clean. Here we go.
so from what I know with that project, it is.
What project is it, first of all?
So essentially what triggered site plan review for them is like they're looking to add more than 6 parking spaces. That's one of the requirements for full site plan review for a development. So it's an existing single-family home, a
Located where? On North Street?
383?
383
383 Fisher.
Fisher
Um,
Street, okay.
And
Oh,
it's
boy,
a
yeah.
church property that's looking to utilize it, I believe, as a
No, it's past me.
church or as a meeting house.
It's a residential property right now?
So, yeah, I mean, the use itself, we can't regulate because it's a protected use as a religious use. The only thing that's kind of regulated from what they're doing is site plan review, so the parking, the circulation, landscaping, snow storage, stuff of that like that you know, Mark. It's, I know they met, I think their first public hearing was last week with the planning board, and it's, I think it was continued from there. kind of a unique situation, but I mean, because I think they intend to just kind of keep the house. I don't think it's a matter of tearing down the house, building a church. I think they want to really just make exterior improvements to the front yard.
But it will only, at that point, it will be a church only, right? It's not gonna be like a residential property and a church, I don't care either way.
Communal.
Yeah, I'll have to review in the planning board meeting, because I wasn't part of it in terms of, that. This is just our knowledge from knowing the application.
When you make the turn, and
But
then it
I think the
turns like
intention is just
this,
to have it as a church, not a
where the
residential use.
greenhouse is on
So it's
the
gonna be
left.
more of a church than a rectory or anything like that?
No,
Yeah.
it's like
No.
more of like a meeting,
Okay.
I believe they're gonna convert like the garage into a, like meeting area where they'll hold, I believe, services, but
Yeah.
it'll kind of just be like the once a week kind of thing.
I'm just happy, well, not happy, but the fact that they're actually using the Dover Amendment for the reason why it was developed,
Yeah.
for a church versus a daycare center, and the rest of the stuff that people try to use it for.
Yeah, they've updated section 3 of chapter 48 a few times, so who knows what else will be protected in the future. But yeah, that's all I'm familiar with that project. The fine details, I may have to go check the
Now I
planning
need to
board
know
meeting.
about this church.
Do we know what denomination? Not that I care, but
I think it's a Christian denomination. That's about it.
Darn well better be. If I see red capes and horns come out of people's heads, that's it. Did you get that, Pat? I'm gonna get myself
No
kicked off
comment.
this committee, I tell you.
Yeah,
Um,
we need a quorum.
So,
So other than that, we do have minutes, and I know
Yeah.
if you want to go over Main Street Live.
Yeah,
um,
let's just get the minutes out of the way. Somebody wants to, did everybody get a chance to read them?
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of May 21st.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
no, abstain, you're abstained?
Isn't present.
So 1, 2, 3. Well, you can do the math on that.
301?
301.
301.
Yep.
Okay, so Main Street Live. We've been discussing what the prospects of Main Street Live are for this year and moving forward. And looking at, I think those two things come together, because at this stage of the game, I think the EDC has pretty much come to the conclusion that we're ready to pass the baton of Main Street Live, the event, off to a new entity that wants to take it over. We just haven't found that entity yet. So that's something that we're actively looking for the long term, and to kind of hand off the event and everything that goes into the event to get another group off and running where they're not gonna have to figure it out for themselves. I think one of the things we've been able to do as a group is write the playbook that works, so now it's just execution, and the execution has become, it's formidable. So I think we're at the point now where maybe a larger group that could come in and really benefit from the event, putting on the event, and we know the town does, really benefits from it. It's one of my favorite events, and everybody you talk to, they just love it. So we don't want it to go anywhere, but I think it needs to move to a group that is larger and more capable of handling it than EDC right now. Now, having said that, for this year, we're really at a crossroads, and we need to, in my opinion, and from what we've discussed, and if anybody has input, please jump in. We need to set a date that's gonna be relatively soon, like within the next week, 2 on the outside, but by the end of July would be ideal, to find that partner moving forward, that might wanna take the reins, where we would get them through it this year from an advisory status. So they can hit the ground running, and then take it over after that. If we're unable to find that group, I think we may have, given it's the 300th and everything, and a lot of things going on, we may have to not have the event this year as we look for that new partner for the following year. Now, that doesn't mean definitely decided not to do it, but I believe if I heard our conversation right, that we decided that we're gonna set a time frame where if we don't have someone in place by then, that we're gonna have to, not have the event this year.
I agree. I mean, it's been a great event for the town and everything. Be sad to see it go. But would love to, our biggest problem though, we always had with this event was we just can't get the volunteers to run it and to run it properly and safely. And we've been trying hard to get more people to help us, you know, run the event in terms of, before the event, organizing it as well as the day of the event. And we just haven't been able to get the hands that we really need to do it. And it's been growing and growing and growing, and we've been doing it with the same 6 or 7 people. And it's just too big for the 6 or 7 people to do it. And we need probably another 15 to 20 volunteers to run it properly. And with the 300th being on the road and the 300th being here, who knows what size crowd we'll have if we have the right weather conditions to be down, you know, on the common and downtown. And I'd really hate to see it go, but I'd love to see an organization come in and take it over and run with it that's got more grassroots and more people on the ground to take it and go with it. You know, even though we've tried to partner with Destination Downtown and they're kind of in the same boat with them, they don't think they have the personnel to help. It'd be nice to see some other town organizations, like maybe the Boosters or something like that, come in and take over with it in terms of it being a fundraiser, which it has viability being a fundraiser for somebody to come in and do it. You just need more people to run it and to participate in it, so.
Who runs the 3rd of July event every year?
The fire department, I believe, used to do it. Do they still do it? Is that still their
The
deal?
fireworks, I think they do.
Just like the general, like, day of event, yeah, I guess it must be probably
Yeah.
organized by them.
It's always been
With the
organized, it's always
town.
been a fire department thing. They've done a great job on it.
Yeah.
And I think, Harry, it's still, do you know offhand if they have maintained responsibility for that? I know they still,
Fireworks?
the fireworks
Just
the
like
whole night.
The
yeah.
event itself.
Lions is involved.
Yeah.
Lions and the fire
Wasn't
department.
there a 4th of
Probably
July
multiple
committee?
groups.
What?
Wasn't there a 3rd of July committee?
I believe so,
Yeah.
but I think it's mostly firefighters and the Lions
I think the
Club.
firefighters and rec department and the Lions do most of the fundraising for that, right?
Is the rec department included
I
that,
was
do you know?
gonna say the rec-
It's gotta be.
I think they help fundraise, but I think the bottom line goes down to the fire department.
Got it.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
What's the big celebration date or night for the 300th? Is it in October?
October 4th is the parade
Parade.
and everything, and
And they're doing something at Stone Field, the field here? Like fireworks again and laser show?
are they,
do
that
not
night?
know.
I'm not positive on that, but I think you're right. But yeah, that's-
And
They've done one laser show already, right?
Yeah.
And it was 2
I
scheduled.
thought this was just a parade on the 4th. I could be wrong.
all right. And what about on the Main Street Live? You guys have been very lucky, no rainouts, always decent weather to pull it off. If it goes south, number one, you got a rain date, I assume. You haven't
We've
done the
never
rain
had a
date.
rain day, because it's been
No.
too hard to reschedule the entertainment.
And so,
Even the food trucks would be hard to
right,
reschedule.
because they got somewhere else to go.
Yeah.
So then, worst case scenario, what is the loss that you would incur if it doesn't go off?
It could be upwards of, well, depends upon what happens
For
with the
rain?
food trucks.
For rain?
But if it's
You
a
mean?
rain
Oh,
day,
no, so you never did, never done a rain date, it was this date,
No.
go,
And that's
yes
it.
or no?
So
So it's not like
if
a,
we
Or have
cancel
a
the
rainy-
event
yeah,
So,
due to
weather.
whatever it is, so let's say weather, we'd cancel the event due to weather, that would be like within a day or two of the event, right?
yeah,
Yeah, everybody gets paid.
the bands and stuff. are
Bands,
locked in,
the- all
it'd be
tech.
probably a $15,000 item.
Yeah,
So that's a hard hit.
and that's why we've always made a
That's why
point
we've
to
always
Lousy
been
night.
thinking
keep that money in the account
for that rain.
for
day.
that rain out, that,
Or keep a portion.
yeah, that impending rain out.
So you'd at least get through one rain day. Of the 7 or 8 that we've had, we've been very fortunate.
So
that we haven't had a rain
again,
day.
Not that I'm saying anywhere close to yes, but, you know, I could probably try to say, you know, if you guys put that schedule together as far as the playbook, right? You know, if we had the chamber Freemasons, Knights of Columbus, Lions Club, that 4 organizations could pull it off. But, again, I don't know what the hit would be, who can take the hit. I think we could try to lessen the hit, I like the fact, you know me, I was always like, why can't we get cover bands and stuff like that? Because I just like the cover bands. Versus you going out and getting more professional gigs that want that contract and need that money if they don't do it. Versus if you're doing more local bands and, you're not gonna be in that contract agreement where it's like, listen, it's yes or no. It's not like you've got 5 other concert dates to choose from, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with you, but, it's,
The entertainment also
the
makes it.
entertainment matters
Yeah.
in this, the bigger you get, the better it has to be.
I agree, I just don't,
Yeah.
it's tough to take that, to, swallow that pill of that loss for those type of nonprofit organizations.
Right, except that when you have an account that has 1 year of coverage in it, it is a self-funding thing in terms of what they call core funding. So the core funding is what you're gonna lose if the event doesn't happen, right? We have core funding, and if we have a rain out or something where we have to cancel and people get paid, yeah, it would hurt. And we
It would
couldn't,
still go on.
we couldn't afford another one, but it's a self-funding thing, just the sales alone can rebuild that account in one season, right? So it's not like they're putting up, they might have to put up the core funding to start, but as long as it doesn't rain and we continue to get the crowds, it'll fund itself to a break even. But break even for charitable purposes doesn't do you any good, you know what I mean?
And what have we done, what have we actually raised money and or used it for?
Nothing yet.
Because you wanted to hold that core fund, just in
Right,
case,
right,
case.
Right.
Which doesn't solve the big picture of why you're doing it, but it also solves the short term, which is we're giving entertainment,
Well,
we're bringing people into
Well,
downtown,
and
everybody's
more,
prospering.
the original purpose of it with Liz Dennehy was to,
Help with COVID.
help, well, no,
Well,
it was to
before
help.
that, it was to help with
before
Main
that,
Street.
Get Main Street up and
Yeah.
and have people come downtown.
Yep.
That's where it's funny, because remember how much stuff we did to facilitate all that outdoor dining? And we did outdoor dining 3 years in a row before COVID, and it was paved for COVID.
Right.
And we knew exactly how to do it. Even though some people were saying how great they were because they were able to do that for COVID. We did it 3 years before that. I don't wanna hear it. But anyway, so that was the original purpose. So I think the event itself, from an EDC standpoint, even if you break even, makes sense because, every restaurant tour downtown would say it's my best night of the year. It is absolutely my #1 revenue night of the year. I have to turn people away. So that was our original goal. So we could almost justify the fact that even if we broke even on the event, we were bringing something to the town from an economic development standpoint. And believe me, at least speaking only for myself, if it was more manageable from a physical and personnel standpoint, I would want to keep doing it, because it's great.
I would too.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
happy
fun.
I
I'm
would
happy
be
to
involved
volunteer,
with
but
that.
because I haven't been around doing it for years, but just from a personal perspective, I'd be happy to
We
continue
would
to
need,
organize.
I think we would need, Danelle and I were talking, and Kevin, and I think we would, and just from the planning part, 10 to 15 bodies, and then on the night of, 40 bodies, maybe more.
Yeah.
Right now, we've been doing it with 3 to 4 planning. And what, 15 night of,
Not
if we're
even.
lucky?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're a staff,
Yeah,
but yeah.
it's just
so
not
we're in.
sustainable.
It's not sustainable, so, and it's not like we haven't asked.
Harry, be happy to sit down and hash it over next week well, I'm away this week, but next week, if you wanna get 3 or 4 people from each of those and meet and to discuss it, happy to do it
I would say, if you could, just send me the boilerplate, what it looks like, what it takes first, so then I can then present that to some other guys, and then from there we can sit down. That sound better?
In terms of logistics and stuff, or in terms of finance?
Both.
Okay. I'll get that to you tomorrow.
And I was, just out of thin air, I was thinking, is it easier or worse or less beneficial if you had it on this field here?
I think the downtown aspect of it is really
I mean, you can't get any
a draw.
closer. Can't get any closer downtown than here.
I know, but
It's
I think
it's
you're
the
right.
charm of it, it's the.
Yeah, but I
Charm of
don't
it
think
being
that
able
was a
to be
big
on the
drawback
commons.
of the,
Huh?
no, having the locale doesn't add people
Yeah.
or adds
That
staff.
wasn't the problem.
Right.
In fact, that's.
Where it is not an
kind of what
issue,
made
it's
it nice.
how to run it.
I think that's what made it a nice common, that's why, utilizing the town common that never really gets, well, they do concerts in the common on Tuesday, but it was just a nice thing for a lot of, a lot of people would come back and just go to that for the meet up with old classmates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was really just starting to get to be that. And one of the nice functions about that whole thing, which you could do here, is that it included all walks of life into it. It had the kids out there early in the afternoon, and then the sports people would come in, and then it would go on to the nightlife people, and, it included a big part of the segment of town that would go to it on an event,
Yeah. And it's, quite frankly, it's a novelty to be where it is. It's,
No, I'm just,
I think that's a big part of the draw, quite
Yeah, I do
frankly,
too, and
you know?
I don't think a lot of towns do that in the downtown
Right.
type
right.
thing.
No, I agree with all that. I'm just thinking of the ease of right here contained into one field, if that would help with not needing the bodies and,
Yeah, I don't think.
No,
they still need
because the
same.
bodies
Still
are,
think you need the
the
same.
bodies that we need are
Ticket sales.
catamount
and
to the
Yeah,
actual
set up,
running of
ticket
the
sales,
production.
breakdown.
You know
Still
what I
gonna
mean?
have the same logistics, whether it's there or over there.
Right.
I have a suggestion. Would it make sense, I mean, obviously you guys have more, than, you have the financial end, you have the logistics end, but like, would it help from Harry's standpoint, put it into like, almost like a breakdown of you need so many people for this use, so many people for that use, and
yeah,
then what that
Oh, no, we have
entails?
that.
Oh, yeah,
We have
okay, yeah.
that, yeah.
We've never fulfilled
We
it.
never
but we-
fill it, we got it written down. We should even put it in a wish list, but no, we have it written down,
Like
but
we
it
send
never
it to
gets
Santa
there.
Claus,
Okay.
maybe they'll listen next time, but,
Which is sad, but if you wanna sit down and talk about it, and I was kinda hoping Beth was gonna be here, because I know she's got a connection with the boosters,
Yeah,
cause she
was
used to be
gonna
the
go-
president.
She was gonna go back to the Lions, I think, and talk to them about maybe like the pizza, doing like pizzas, or, I thought that's what she had said last time.
At the event?
I
yeah.
thought so.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is as we were
We're talking-
running it, then.
we're talking about a more affordable food option. I
In
think that
fact,
was the
we
real
had
lines.
problems getting the Lions to attend the event because they couldn't get enough personnel just to attend
yeah,
grilling hot dogs.
yeah, we wanted
thought
fried
I s-
dough one year, and they said, no, we can't get anybody.
And that
that
sounds
wants to
like
do it."
it's Eddie Fosberg, Beth, and Paul Smith,
So I just try out one thing, and I know I made my 3 cents earlier about the timing of late July to late September.
Mhm.
But also to keep in mind, we do have food trucks that, are potentially signed
Waiting out
up.
there for this, yeah.
That
Yeah.
I think that a decision needs
Oh,
to
I
be
agree.
sooner
Yeah.
than
Yes,
later.
I
and
agree.
Well,
Like
that's
I
why.
said,
That's
yeah.
part of the
or if
cutoff
it's
date
not
at the end of
already
next
been
week.
made, like I think I've made my mind up.
No, I mean, that's why I think we set the cutoff date for a week from now,
Right.
because
You
also,
gotta make decisions.
those bands need to rebook.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no,
The
definitely.
stage, sound, lights, I mean, those,
Tents,
you have
chairs,
to book
tables.
that,
Yeah,
I booked that 11 months in advance because they're so,
Mm.
in need, and they get calls every day for that stuff. Like the mobile stage and all the lighting and the sound. So, yeah, to prevent us from having to cut any kind of a check, I think it would have to, the decision would have to be made
Yeah.
within a week, 10 days tops.
Mhm. The end of the month.
No, so why don't you guys talk if you wanna see the others, the, under the covers? And if it gives you enough chance to talk to some folks and
And I
whether
think
or
we
not.
really ought to make a hard push for the boosters too, just to throw it past them. What I like about the boosters, and I don't like either group differently in terms of opportunity. But I think one of the great things about the boosters is that turnover of
Or
people.
people, yeah.
No one's gonna get burnt out because they're only gonna be involved for maybe 2 years.
Yep.
And then their kids are out and the new group is in and they're all
Mm-hmm.
psyched because we
That
all
goes for
go to this event.
Multiple kids do
Yeah,
exist.
right. But, you know,
true,
people,
though.
people do
Yeah.
get
Agreed.
psyched, people do get excited, I get excited for that event. I love seeing, you know, when you get 5,000 people there that are real happy to be there,
Mhm.
you know, you can still get burnt out, obviously, but
Have you been to it?
Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
every,
okay.
like, I think last year I wasn't there because
Yeah.
of, whatever, we were away, but, yeah.
for
we
2
all-
or 3 years, these people with the boosters will get real excited about doing this event.
Friends come over from Norway and
Right.
come with us, and, yeah,
So I think that's
all the kids.
why that kind of rings with me, because I don't think they'll get sick of it. I could be wrong, but I don't think they would.
John had copied me on all the food truck correspondences, so I have like his list and his Excel sheet on like who was committed, who didn't answer, or whatever, so when it gets to that point, we can.
You know, it's a really good sign when, I mean, we went the first couple of years. Year 2, I remember, didn't we lose like 3 food trucks bailed
Yeah,
on
the
us?
day
Year
of.
2 Day of.
Mm.
And now, these food trucks are beating down the door. They want this event. And that says something about the way Walpole turns out for things, you know? They all sell out.
Yeah, they all sell.
I do think folks in town love it, like at least, you know, our group definitely always is looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I knew it was something like year 4 or something like that, where people would just message me on social media, like, when is it? What is it, you know, is it, you
I
guys
would
doing
love
it this
to
year?
attend it one year.
Just drink, right? Yeah. Be on the other side of the
Getting
table.
too
Go
involved. Have you, I mean, if all else fails, like, is there, you wouldn't, you know, maybe like use social media to try and gain volunteers?
Well, we've always
We've
done
done
that.
that.
We've done
Yeah.
email blasts and Facebook blasts, and
True
Rex
contact.
got it out there on that. We have the billboards up on Route 1 that advertise it, you know. I think everybody knows it's there. In fact, it's almost a problem. We get too many people. You know, that's not the problem, the attendance. The problem is the volunteers.
Yeah,
The attendance, we don't even have to touch. It just keeps going up on its own, you know?
I think volunteer-wise, it's, without a cause, people don't wanna volunteer, don't necessarily wanna jump to volunteer because they wanna go to the event. That's why
Well,
I
that's a
think
lot
the
of the problem we
boosters
have
have
with
a cause.
with the bartenders is they don't wanna bartend, they wanna
They
go
wanna be
out
on the
and
other
hang
side
out.
of the bar.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you have a cause where, hey,
Yeah.
this, we need to do this because we're funding our teams.
Yeah.
And like Danelle said, the boosters can be very persuasive
Yeah.
with their parents. And say, okay, we need.
This is a
we
must-attend
need-
event.
But you know what, it's so big, especially if we can get a group of the top 3 or 4 teams at Walpole High, where now you're talking about a lot of parents.
Hundreds of parents.
Where you could say, okay, from, you know, 7 to 8, here's the group. From 8 to 9, here's the group. And they could staff that like nothing.
But
Who
how
is
are
the
they
connection
making-
over there, though? So,
They would have to come together on, this would be kind of a one-off, I think, where a bunch of boosters would come together on something.
Brianna, our goal was always to fundraise to cover the expense of the event. And then the beer and wine sales were the income for,
the
above and beyond
fundraise?
that.
And sponsorships.
In sponsorships,
Yeah.
yeah, that type of thing.
But
So what's the next step on this, just as like a subcommittee or whatever, do we set up a call for the
Well,
31st?
why don't we, when's that, a week from today, next Tuesday? So why don't we meet with the subcommittee next Tuesday or Wednesday, and Harry, I'll get you the information tomorrow, and maybe let's meet Monday or something like that, or Tuesday? If you think get 3 or 4 people from each of those organizations together?
I'll try.
and
let me
kinda
know on
go
that
from
too,
there.
I'd like to be involved in
Sure.
that as well.
Either meet at my office or over here, I don't care.
Does anybody know anybody from Knights of Columbus?
Huh?
Anybody know anybody from Knights of Columbus?
I know people in Rentham, Knights of Columbus, but that's probably not helpful, but they might, I don't know. I feel like they all talk, no?
I don't know who's on the
I have no
Knights of
idea.
Columbus.
I don't know how the organization works.
Hmm.
I could ask.
Who's at the Masons?
Me?
You're running that now?
No.
Who runs
But,
that? Is Tony still doing that? No.
Tony Martone,
Yeah.
he's Oddfellows,
Oh, Oddfellows.
but there's a new leader every 2 years, and the new leader starts in September.
Yeah. And they have the membership. You think between those 3 or 4 organizations, you can get 60, 80 people doing it?
How much?
60, 80 people
To volunteer?
through the night with bartenders and everything. But, you know, there's probably other people that will volunteer.
No, God, no.
And there'll be 200.
Save the fireworks.
How'd you go from, how many people did you have working the event last year? 15?
We told them this year.
Yeah, they
told
work
them this
right
year
through
they
it.
were 200.
I mean, if you
Right.
can get that.
You're just saying
I
absolute best
also-
case
I also-
scenario is 60.
I also had my 8 employees 8 hours a day out there working. You know,
For
doing
setup and
setups and
everything,
stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, and stripping down, and then each bar needs 9 or 10 bars, 9 or 10 for each bar. If you're gonna do, like, what we were doing, if the event's 5 to 11, we were at least breaking it down to 2 shifts, because nobody wants to work the whole thing. So if we can get somebody to work 5 to 8 and 8 to 11 shifts, so you're talking 5 and 5 at each bar, so that's 10
And
people
then the
times 3
chaos
bar.
of ticket sales.
It's 30 people there, and then the ticket sales, you got three people at ticket sales, and that's 3 shifts, that's 9 times 3.
Let me
There's
give you an
another
idea of ticket sales, too.
27 there.
Did you ever see the end of the movie Trading Places, when they're on the floor of the commodities exchange, yelling and screaming and holding up their tickets? That's ticket sales at Main Street Live. It's crazy.
Got better. It's got better. It was a lot worse at the beginning.
And then you need people at the entranceways, you need people doing trash, picking up
All right,
tables.
you're not helping the cause here. Send me what you can.
We'll meet on the 30th.
All right,
Then you need people to figure out what the heck's gonna happen when the stage sound and lights truck doesn't show up.
in Harry, I don't get out of there till 3 AM.
Wow.
By the time they break the stage down after 12:30, 1 o'clock, 1:30, they get out of there. So by the time I get off the common, taking down the barriers, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock. And then,
Remember when we had those barriers all the way around?
yeah,
That was awful.
and then at 6 AM or 6:30 AM, back
Yeah,
there
you're just-
again
You're not helping.
for DPW, picking up trash.
Well,
and
he's
everything.
being truthful.
I know.
Maybe that's why, the
one year-
discussion
For
we
breakdown though,
had
did
over the
we,
last
did
month or
you not have
so was-
DPW?
No,
available,
no,
or-
DPW, I had
people
3 or 4 guys from DPW
Okay.
doing trash.
All right,
On break, and they helped with tables and chairs too, but they were mostly doing trash barrels. They were breaking down the barricades as well and that, and then other people helping out, friends of mine were there cutting down the no alcohol signs and
yeah.
all that stuff, just getting everything down and out of the tents.
If it does go forward, maybe, once it's confirmed, have another meeting with town officials and maybe kind of emphasize if you need more people
Oh, yeah.
to supplement. Breakdown, it depends on availability of, DPW guys, but once that's confirmed, we
Because
try to-
we try to get completely off the common by noontime on Saturday. And then, the porta potties usually stay there, they don't pick up till Monday. But other than that, everything else is gone, the tent
And the
company usually
ice
comes
house.
by 8 o'clock, yeah, the ice house usually doesn't get picked up till Monday morning too, but. All right,
2 o'clock in the morning trying to tip over that ice house with no strength left. All right, is that everything?
That's it.
We did the minutes, we're good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make a motion to adjourn.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
opposed, abstained, good.
boom.
Thanks, Pat, appreciate it.